the pain, you know, whether or not it's binge eating, anxiety, depression, phobias, fears, and everything, even though the things that we want to overcome are often so painful, so painful. Like it physically hurts us mentally and physically. And even despite all that free stuff, we don't do it. So it's not because it cost money. It's because. So today's subject is, why is it that we think therapy is expensive, and why do we often think that you need therapy in order to get what you want, in order to be free from our self-sabotaging behaviors? So just a bit of warning here, this is going to be very triggering to many people, and this is something that I can feel confident in sharing because I have gone through countless self-sabotaging behaviors, and I have used no therapy, no cognitive healing, and I have used, so I've been on both sides. I've done it my way and invested nothing, and I've also invested thousands in my own self-development and self-healing. Just to give you a background, from the ages of 5 or even younger, I suffered from asthma. I nearly died in hospital because I was allergic to everything, and I had asthma attacks, and I was in the hospital almost every week. I was a sick child. And plus, I suffered from complex PTSD, which wasn't really diagnosed until I started doing that mindset, where I started connecting the dots, the way that I was reacting because of my childhood trauma that I experienced. So a lot of my behaviors were linked to the experience that I had, and I had reflex on doing things. And one of those things that was a result of the conditioning, the childhood trauma, whether it's bullying at school. So I got bullied at school as well. And then I had an eating disorder for over 22 years. So that was, whether or not it was like back-to-back diets, I was over-exercising, I had bulimia, anorexia, and binge eating, all through the sphere of eating disorders. Not only did I have those, I was an alcoholic for a while. I was an addict for a while, addicted to cocaine, speed, and like what they called no, ecstasies, you know, like clubbing stuff. So I am not here like telling all this stuff, you know, from a textbook. I have lived through the suffering. So I am like not one of these people are just saying the things that I say lightly. I know the pain. I know what it feels like to be catatonic and collapsing on the bed and thinking, I just can't live anymore. I know what it feels like to not want to live another day. I know what it feels like to feel so ugly and fat and hating the reflection in the mirror. I know that. I know how it feels like to feel the pain in my body and the struggle of living a living hell every single day. I know that. So whatever I'm sharing with you right now is the things that I never knew when I was going through those things. And I'm not saying that this is the only truth, what I'm sharing. I'm not saying that this is the truth. I'm actually saying there is so much but I'm sharing with you what I know so far, and it's got me to where I am now. So first of all, I had a question come through from one of the people in my private Facebook group for binge eating, and she said, I can't afford to invest in therapy to help me right now, and I'm really, really struggling. The first thing that came in my mind is, first of all, she's already created a belief that she needs to have therapy in order to stop what she's doing. She's already, and that's the thing about our reality. Everything we do, our behaviors, our actions, whatever we see is a product of our beliefs. So that's the first thing. So I picked that up. She believes that she cannot get better unless she invests in therapy. I don't know how much that is, whether she can't invest £10 or she can't invest 100 or 1,000. I don't know. It was just that one line. I can't invest in therapy, so I continue to struggle. And the second thing that I found interesting is despite all the free information through YouTube, all the social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, on top of the free content that's always sharing continuously on these platforms. And in some countries, I know in the UK, if you're really, really suffering from things like binge eating disorder, things like anorexia, and things like depression, you do get like part of living in the UK, like doctors are free through the national NHS National Health Services, and then the doctors, they review you and you can get free therapy, free counselling. Don't you find with the amount of technology we have nowadays, like social media, and especially when I'm sharing what I've been sharing so far, I'm on day 31 or 32, every single day I've been sharing things about the principles of our minds, and knowing the principles of our minds is enough to change our lives significantly. However, despite all the free information, she's still struggling. So it's not really the therapy, really, the investment, because if it was the investment, then surely the free stuff should help her. But that's where the problem is, and this is what blew my mind when I started doing this work, when I started really contemplating about why we do this, why we struggle, why we still struggle despite all the information. And in yesterday's video, I think I talked about contemplation. One of the biggest things that have changed my life is to contemplate. In other words, instead of assuming whatever that comes in my mind, whatever reaction that I have, whatever feelings that I have straight away, I do not assume it's right. I first question myself. I contemplate, I think about things. And that in itself is a game changer. So I don't want to repeat what I've already talked about. So go in yesterday's video and you'll find out why contemplating is probably the most powerful thing, the most life-changing thing you could ever do with yourself in your life. That doesn't even cost a penny, and it will change your life. And it not only change your life, it will change everything around you. And I explained that in yesterday's video. One other thing that we were never taught, not really. We were taught it, but not the way that we should have been taught. And it's to be responsible for ourselves. I know. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm responsible. I got a job and I get myself changed every day and I wash my face, I got kids. I'm responsible. Got a job and It's not that kind of responsibility. We were taught how to be responsible the way that the matrix, the world wants you to be responsible. You go to school, you brush your teeth, you get a job, you pay for your bills, that kind of responsibility. But when it comes to our biggest problems, the things that really, really impact us on a daily basis, like binge eating, like addictions, like phobias and fears, like fears of public speaking, like trauma, depression, anxiety, we almost lose our power. We lose our sense of being an adult. We go back to being a child. We yearn for validation. So instead of being the evolved adult like we should do, like we do when we go and pay our bills, when we look after our kids, we kind of turn into this helpless person. What we tend to think what help is when somebody literally treats us as a child, like our mama. When we were a child, we were sick, and mama comes along and says, "Oh, I will do everything to help you. Let me hold your hand and I will feed you your, medicine in the spoon. You have to open your mouth and you'll feel better." Why I've got the audacity to say this? Because I'm sharing with you something really important that I didn't know, and that I was waiting for somebody to wave a magic wand and have me fixed. Because yes, there are things that you can invest in, like therapy, the work that I do, cognitive healing, deep cognitive healing, hypnosis, self-hypnosis, all these things, rapid transformational therapy, one of the leading things in the mind industry to help with deep trauma. But it's not necessary. It's not necessary if you don't have the money. And I can say that because I didn't discover therapy, cognitive healing, until about 8 years ago, 10 years ago. I didn't discover it then. And I only started implementing them really when when I accidentally discovered the power of it. Let me give you the difference between when you're doing it yourself, like you're self-healing yourself, and then the deep cognitive work that I do. So this is going to make no sense at all. So just try to follow me, because this is how I see it. It's like when you try and do it yourself, it's almost like watching your child grow, and you don't really see the difference every single day, but they are growing. It's like when you do it yourself, you're doing something little by little. You don't really see the significant difference because the changes are ever so slow, ever so slight. Sometimes it's quite painful, like growing pains. It's like, but something's happening. That's what it feels like to do it yourself. It's slow, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. It's like you don't see your child growing, but it doesn't mean that they're not growing. And suddenly, like when somebody sees them a year later, they're like, "Oh my God,
your daughter's grown. And you're like, oh, I guess so.
You haven't noticed. The paid therapy, the stuff that I do, it's like the person that had just seen your daughter after a year. It skips that long waiting period. You just get to where you want to go quicker. So that's the difference. It's just time. When you get right to the source, the root of the problem, you not only get to the issue, you'll realize how much is in the subconscious mind, and you'll stop trying to stop problems. You'll stop trying to overcome stuff. You'll start going deeper into more, what else can I achieve? It changes from what can I overcome by sorting out the crap in my mind that I've learned through childhood and all the things that is holding me back, that's creating my binge eating, my addictions, my fears and phobias, to what else can this brilliant mind do if I release more? What else can I create? How can I harness that mind so that I can create even more? Do you see what I mean? So if you are stuck in thinking, I cannot invest in therapy, I only discovered deep cognitive healing about 10 years ago. And by then, I have managed to stop being an alcoholic, addictions, eating disorders. I did it the free way. I did it myself. No investing, no paid therapy. Was it hard?
It was freaking hard. The difference as well, when you're doing it yourself, it's a heck of a lot harder
than if you go straight to the subconscious mind and go to a specialist like myself to do it. It's not about a skill that we don't have. It's not about it being so painful that when you have your deep cognitive healing, the pain just goes away. It's not that. The deep cognitive healing just helps you release the shit that has convinced you that you can't handle it. Let me repeat that again. The deep cognitive healing, the paid stuff, that what she would probably be referring to, especially the work that I do, doesn't give you anything. It's not like a magic spell that gives you superhuman powers and suddenly you've got big muscles and you're a lion. It just removes all the deep beliefs that has conned you into believing that you can't handle the pain mentally and physically in order for you to take the action you need to do to get your best life. Another thing that came in my mind, so that was like the two things. The third thing that came in my mind, I thought, was, isn't it funny that even though the stuff that we struggle with, the pain, whether or not it's binge eating, anxiety, depression, phobias, fears, and everything, even though the things that we want to overcome are often so painful, so painful, like it physically hurts us mentally and physically. And even despite all that free stuff, we don't do it. So it's not because it cost money is because we have not learned how to commit to ourselves, to invest in overcoming our problems. I didn't actually invest in therapy until I wanted a better life. And then I realized that the deep cognitive healing that I experienced actually released so much more. There is no reason why we cannot overcome things, everyday problems. I would say everyday problems like mental problems, mental health problems, if we were committed to ourselves because of the abundance of free information out there. And one of those things that I share in my private binge eating group is the recover action plan. Every single day there's a task there for you to do, and it chips away slowly at reprogramming yourself. And the reason why we get stuck in our problems is because it's really crazy. It's really, really crazy. We don't change anything and expect something different. It's, I think it was, is it Einstein or someone? It's like saying that insanity is where we keep doing the same things every single day and expecting a different result. And that is basically how we treat our well-being, the things that we struggle with. We don't take responsibility for finding the solution and keeping to it, because every single thing works. And I can put my hand on my heart and say, if you stuck with something for as long as it takes, but the problem is that we don't want to invest, because the investment is, like I said, the difference between doing it is slow and fast. We don't want to invest, but then when it's free, we don't want to do it. We don't do it. We don't commit to it, but then expect our lives to change. We tell ourselves it's too hard. I can't handle the pain, and we say all these things to ourselves. But I've gone through that as well. The pain is not going to kill us. The pain just makes us stay where we are until we realize it's all in our head. There's so many different ways that you can do these things. You can do it with the least amount of pain. Like if you're suffering from binge eating, like the recovery action plan is there, trying to do it the least painful way. But usually when it's the least painful way, doing it yourself, it does take a long time. But when it comes to overcoming these things, if we fully committed to something, we will get the results a lot quicker than we think. Because our minds, if you look at my other videos, our minds are designed to make things easier for ourselves. You just got to choose one thing, stick to it. And don't ask me until when, because that's the bit where you have to take responsibility. That's the bit where you have to say, well, I'm going to do it as long as it takes. Because if you're impatient and you want results and you want to know when, then that's when you invest. Because there's people like myself that know how to get results faster than you doing it by yourself. That's why they're there, the skill to help. And another thing that we weren't taught about help, it's like we seem to think that getting help to help ourselves, like we're suffering, is an expense. But what we don't see is the cost of when we don't invest in these things. If we went through with a fine tooth comb with the expenses that we have every day, and we add it all up, maybe the handbags, maybe the another ornament for binge eating, for example, the amount of binge foods, most of the time self-sabotage ends up being very expensive. But we don't think about those things. We think about, oh, it's going to cost me this much to get a therapist. We don't think the freedom that we'll get. We don't think that once we get the result, you'll no longer be squandering your money on binge foods, for example, drugs or drinks or cigarettes. If you can invest on the fast route to getting the best life you want, you desire, just take one tip. You commit to one, master that. Like, for example, if you binge every single day, just say, I'm going to binge only at 1 o'clock, or instead of binging on cookies, ice creams, crisps, my meals, the yogurt, just
drop one of those. Still binge, but drop a packet of biscuits.
eat the rest. The main thing is change. As long as you change something every single day, and then once you master that one thing, and then do another. Once you master that thing, do another. Master another thing, do another, and another, and then another, and another, and another. Guess what? By the end of it, you wouldn't have to spend any money on investing on therapy, and eventually you would have transformed your life.